Outpost Aurelia lay at the very edge of explored space, its copper-colored skies streaked with thin white clouds and twin moons glowing over rocky plains. It was humanity's bravest dream, a colony built with sweat and hope on a world far from Earth. Children laughed in dusty streets, engineers worked inside silver domes, and farmers grew strange blue crops in hard soil. Life was tough, but full of pride. The people of Aurelia believed they were building a future that would inspire generations. But deep in the cold darkness of space, danger was already moving toward them. Governor Rhea Trent stood on the watchtower, staring at the horizon with sharp green eyes. She had once been a soldier, hardened by battle, but here she had traded guns for hope. Still, tonight something felt wrong in her bones. The winds were too still, the air too quiet. "Here comes officer." A young man named Eli Ward ran up the tower steps, breathing hard. "Ma'am," he said, voice shaking, "our long-range sensors just picked up movement. Hundreds of ships. It's the Zarn, a ruthless alien species made of black chitin armor and glowing orange eyes. They traveled in swarms, consuming planets like locusts. No prisoners, no mercy." Raya's heart pounded, but her voice stayed calm. "How long until they reach us?" Eli swallowed. 6 hours. No Union fleet was nearby. They had all believed Aurelia was too far to ever be attacked. Rhea slammed her fist on the railing. Fear shot through her, but only for a moment. She turned, calling through the old brass speaker system. "All residents to command bunker immediately. This is not a drill." Families hurried from their homes. Mechanics dropped tools. Children clung to parents with wide, confused eyes. In the underground bunker, Rhea stood in front of a cracked holomap. Around her gathered a small crowd. Scar-faced Security Chief Marcus Kane, brilliant but nervous. Engineer Juno Hayes, and hardened pilot Sophia Rangel. There were also miners, farmers, teachers, everyone ready to fight. Rhea's voice rang clear. "The Union won't reach us in time. We are alone, but we are HUMAN. We don't break. We don't beg. We survive." The room buzzed with fear and bravery mixing together like thunderclouds forming before rain. Marcus loaded plasma rifles. "We won't let them touch our children." Juno connected rusty mining lasers to the old defense turrets. "I can power from the geothermal plant. It might blow, but we'll make those monsters bleed." Sophia snapped on her flight helmet. "My fighters held together with tape, but she still bites." Outside, alarm sirens wailed through the dusty streets. The sky darkened not with storm clouds, but with shadows of approaching ships. The people of Aurelia spread out, some on rocky hills with rifles, some in defense towers, others reinforcing bunker doors. Old folks made homemade bombs from fertilizer. Teenagers passed ammunition with shaking hands but steady hearts. The first Zarn ships pierced the atmosphere like daggers of night. They were terrifying, silent, jagged, and dripping with burning acid that carved black trails into the rocks. Below, Rhea barked into her transmitter. "Hold your lines. Wait for my mark." Booming roars filled the air as Sophia's fighter launched like a comet, banking around defense towers. She fired 2 missiles, slamming into the lead Zarn transport. It exploded in a brilliant white fireball. Cheers erupted from the ground, but Rhea knew it was just the beginning. For every one they shot down, 10 more arrived. The Zarn landed near the outer farms. In seconds, they poured out, spider-like creatures, screeching as they ran on razor limbs. Marcus led a squad of miners and farmers into battle. Pickaxes swung beside plasma rifles. Dirt-covered boots stomped across the hardened ground. A miner named Big Tom grappled a Zarn warrior, slamming it into a wall before blasting it at point-blank range. He roared, blood on his face, but fire in his eyes. Back in the command bunker, Juno screamed over crackling circuits. "Power levels at 70%. If I push more, The core might explode. Raya's jaw tightened. Give me every drop you've got. Lights flickered. Turrets blazed brighter, slicing through alien ranks with beams of white-hot energy. Hours felt like years. Death screamed from every corner. Street by street, they fought. Mothers carried rifles. Teachers threw grenades. Mechanic Eli dragged wounded comrades to safety, while whispering, "Stay with me." Every time the Zarn pushed forward, the humans pushed back harder. They were exhausted, injured, scared, but unbroken, as dawn's pale light colored the sky. The attack paused. The Zarn regrouped, near the edge of the colony, numbers still overwhelming. Rhea climbed the watchtower again, hands bloody but eyes burning with fury and hope. Beneath her, smoke curled into the orange-pink sunrise. Bodies of both alien and human lay scattered across the ground. Yet beyond the pain, she heard something powerful. Children singing softly inside the bunker, trying to keep each other brave. Rhea gripped the railing. "We are not done," she whispered to herself. "Not now, not ever." In that moment, she sent out a desperate signal with their last functioning long-range transmitter, a single message toward Earth Aurelia stands. But we need help. Would anyone hear them? No one knew. But one truth thundered in every Terran heart that morning. They would not surrender this world. They would fight until the last breath, because this colony was more than a place. It was humanity's promise. Smoke still drifted over Outpost Aurelia, as the sun climbed higher in the pale orange sky. The ground was scarred with black craters and strange green scorch marks left behind by Zarn weapons. Bodies wrapped in blankets were laid gently behind. The bunker, too many loved ones lost in one brutal night. Those who survived moved silently, exhausted but determined. Even the children seemed older now, their eyes hollow, but shining with a fierce kind of pride. Governor Rhea Trent did not let herself rest. She walked among the wounded with a straight back, nodding to each person as if her strength could keep them standing. In reality, her legs trembled with fatigue. Her voice was low but strong. "We held them once, we will do it again. Help is coming." But deep inside, she wasn't sure. The transmitter crackled with static. No reply. No Union fleet. No Terran reinforcements. Just silence across the cold stars. Rhea could not let her people see her doubt. "Fix the barricades," she ordered. "Prepare for round 2. We fight until the skies fall." In the underground medical bay, Engineer Juno Hayes pushed a bloody strand of hair from her face as she stitched a soldier's torn arm. She had not slept in 2 days. "Hold still," she whispered to the young woman on the table. Nearby, stacks of broken tools, burnt cables, and shattered parts waited for repair. Every machine, every weapon, every scrap mattered now. Juno's hands shook as she worked, not from fear, but from rage. Rage that the Union had abandoned them. Rage that the Zarn had come to steal everything humans had built. She swore silently to herself, "They will not win." Outside, Security Chief Marcus Kane trained civilians in the courtyard. His voice was gravelly and hard. "Aim high, hit center, no mercy." The recruits were tired farmers, cooks, mechanics, but they held their rifles with growing confidence. Marcus looked at them with rough love. "You're Terrans. That means you don't quit." One woman, her apron still stained with flour, clenched her jaw and said, "They killed my husband. I'll put them in the dirt." Marcus nodded once. That was the spirit they needed. Pilot Sophia Rangel crouched beside her battered fighter jet, wiping oil from her cheek. Half the cockpit was gone, but she refused to ground the craft. "She's ugly," she said, patting the wing, "but she fly." Young Eli Ward ran up, carrying a bundle of salvaged wires. "I found enough to repair the left thruster," he said, panting. Sophia grabbed his shoulders. "You're a miracle worker, kid." The two of them crawled beneath the hull, patching holes and reconnecting circuits. Around them, other crews rebuilt turrets, refilled ammo packs, and welded metal plates across shattered walls. Throughout the colony, music began to play soft, trembling. Someone had connected an old speaker to a working battery. The sound of violins floated through the ruined streets. It was a human song about hope. People paused, closed their eyes, and breathed in strength. Even if only for a moment, they remembered Earth, oceans, cities, memories. Rhea listened from the bunker. Entrance, eyes wet. "Let them hear us," she whispered. "Let the Tsar know we still sing." But hope cracked when new sensor alerts flashed red on the cracked holotable. Juno ran in, her voice breaking. "They're coming back. 3 times more ships than before." Panic rippled through the room. Eli swallowed hard. "No one is coming to save us, are they?" Rhea stepped forward, placing a firm hand on his shoulder. "We save ourselves." Overhead, the first Zon warships re-entered atmosphere with chilling screams. Their engines buzzed like a swarm of hornets. The sight stole the air from human lungs. Rhea shouted into every remaining speaker, "Positions. Do not give up ground." Sirens shrieked. Boots thundered. The second battle for Aurelia began. Zaran drones rained down like black metal wasps, firing acidic rounds that melted stone and steel. Turrets spat bright plasma bolts, cutting many out of the sky. Sophia launched once again, her rebuilt fighter screaming over rooftops. She dodged burning wreckage and shot down 2 enemy gunships before her wing caught fire. "I can't pull up," she cried into her comm. Rhea's voice replied calm and cold. "Land, if you can. If not, take some of them with you." Sophia's jaw clenched with fierce joy. "Roger that." Her damaged jet rammed straight into a Zon carrier. The impact lit the sky in white fire. On the ground, Marcus led his fighters through narrow alleys, ambushing Zarn warriors at close range. Pickaxes struck with brutal force, followed by precise blaster shots. Each kill cost blood. In one brutal clash, Marcus caught a Zarn blade through his shoulder, but he roared through the pain and crushed its skull beneath his boot. Around him, young recruits fought harder, inspired by his refusal to fall. Inside the command bunker, Juno made a terrifying discovery. "They're targeting our geothermal core," she told Rhea. "If it explodes, the whole colony goes with it." Rhea felt her stomach twist. "Then we must stop them before they reach it." She sent Marcus's best fighters to the power plant, while Sophia's remaining pilots bombed the Zarn flanks. Hours passed in a blur of screams, smoke, and pulsing gunfire. By sunset, the colony looked like a cemetery, but somehow, the humans still stood, bruised, broken, bleeding, but alive. The Zarn pulled back once again into the shadows, leaving their dead behind like shattered statues. Rhea limped to the ruined watchtower. The wind whipped through her torn uniform. Down below, dozens of wounded humans lay on makeshift stretchers. Juno slept sitting upright. Marcus's arm was tied in a sling. Sophia's crash had left her with bandaged ribs, but her grin was defiantly wide. Rhea knew they couldn't survive a third wave. Supplies were nearly gone. Ammunition was almost empty. Her people could barely stand, let alone fight. Still, around small fires, they whispered stories, shared rations, hugged children, and watched. The sky, they had not broken. Rhea sent another desperate transmission into the void. "Aurelia still stands. If anyone can hear Usui, we'll fight to the last. But please, hurry." Then she closed her eyes under the stars, praying silently for a miracle as the cold wind howled across the blood-stained colony. Night returned to Aurelia, darker than ever before. The twin moons hung like pale ghosts while scattered fires flickered across the ruined colony. The people were too tired to sleep. They gathered in small circles, wrapped in torn blankets, sharing whatever food was left: dry biscuits, canned vegetables, and sips of recycled water. Children leaned against parents, listening to old stories of Earth and sunny days that felt like a distant dream. Everyone wondered the same silent question. Would tomorrow bring life or death? Governor Raya Trent stood alone on the tower edge, her boots covered in dust and dried blood. She looked out across the wrecked settlements, the shattered domes, the smoking ruins of the power plant, the cratered landing fields. Her heart ached, as if it carried the weight of every soul in Aurelia. She knew they were nearly finished. Another attack, and even their courage would shatter. Still, in her chest, a stubborn flame burned. She pressed the button on the battered transmitter again and whispered, "This is Aurelia. We are still fighting. We need help." The static replied with nothing but empty noise. Down in the engineering bay, Juno Hayes tore through piles of damaged parts with frantic energy. Sparks leaped as she welded metal plates, refusing to rest. Around her lay broken drones, cracked turrets, and half-burnt circuit boards. She was running out of materials, but not determination. She pulled a copper coil from a ruined kitchen stove and grinned to herself. "If I can build a signal booster," she thought, "maybe someone will finally hear us." Her hands shook as she soldered wires together. Every second mattered. Meanwhile, Security Chief Marcus Kane and a few survivors scavenged the outskirts of the colony. They moved quietly through rocky fields covered in ash, looking for anything useful: chunks of metal, scraps of armor, unfired ammo. Marcus's injured shoulder throbbed with each step. He ignored the pain, focusing on the mission. Among a pile of alien wreckage, he found something unusual, a small Zarn device glowing faintly. Intrigued, he called Eli over. "You're the smartest kid here. Figure this thing out," Marcus growled. Eli's eyes widened behind soot-streaked glasses. "Yes, sir," he whispered, tucking the weird device into his pack. If he could unlock its secrets, maybe it could help them turn the tide. Pilot Sophia Rangel sat on a crate near her destroyed fighter, ribs tightly bandaged, breathing carefully. She couldn't fly again, but she wanted to be useful. So she sharpened makeshift blades and handed them to children old enough to fight. "If another wave comes," she told them with fierce eyes, "you aim for the joints, and you never give up." The kids nodded, some trembling, others steady. They were afraid, but also proud. Aurelia had made warriors of them all. As midnight approached, storm clouds rolled in, covering the moons. Thunder rumbled softly across the valley. The people of Aurelia watched the sky with dread. The Zarn often attacked under cover of natural storms. Raya stayed alert, rifle ready, her senses sharp. Rain began to fall cold, heavy, washing blood from the battlefield. Lightning flashed, revealing distant shadows shifting in the dark. Hearts pounded, fingers tightened around weapons. Then, surprisingly, the shadows did not attack. Instead, the Zarn ships hovered at the horizon, forming an eerie, silent wall. It felt like they were waiting, watching. Raya felt chills run down her spine. "Why are they holding back?" she muttered. Marcus joined her, face grim. "They know we're weak. Maybe they want to watch us break." Raya clenched her jaw. "We won't give them the satisfaction." Back in the bunker, Juno finally connected her homemade signal amplifier. She powered it up with a trembling hand. The machine buzzed loudly, throwing sparks. "Come on, work," she begged. She sent a boosted distress signal far into space, praying it would travel farther than before. Eli and Sophia stood nearby, hoping but not daring to believe. Minutes passed. Then suddenly the radio spat out a faint voice. "This is Terran ship Spearhead Trapetracy Beryllia." Everyone froze. Juno's eyes filled with tears. Eli screamed with joy. Raya, hearing the noise over her come, rushed down the stairs. The voice grew stronger. "Hold on, Aurelia. Reinforcements are inbound." Raya grabbed the microphone, her voice cracking for the first time. "Copy, Spearhead. We're holding, as long as we can." The reply came firm and sharp. "We're coming in hot, Governor. 6 hours. Cheers erupted through the bunker, echoing into the night. People hugged each other. After days of terror and loneliness, hope finally returned like a sunrise in the soul. But the celebration didn't last long. The Zarn ships began to move again, this time advancing with cold precision. Rhea's smile vanished. They heard the signal, she realized. They're going to destroy us before reinforcements arrive. She raised her rifle. Positions. This is the final stand. We just need to survive 6 more hours. Around her, the colony jumped into action. Turrets warmed up. Fighters were dragged to launch pads, rifles loaded. Marcus barked commands. Juno handed out explosive charges she made from fuel cells. Sophia strapped herself into a half-repaired walker exosuit. Eli ran toward the tower with the glowing Zarn device clutched, tight, shouting, "I think this thing is a jammer. It might scramble their targeting." Rhea grabbed him. "Do it. Whatever it takes." Lightning split the sky as the Zarn swarm drew closer, their war cries vibrating the earth. Terran defenders lined the walls, shoulders touching, hearts pounding. Rain soaked their uniforms, but their spirits blazed brighter than ever. Rhea lifted her rifle above her head and screamed, "For Aurelia, for Earth." The colony answered as one. A roar of human courage exploding into the storm. And as the Zarn charged with burning fury, the people of Aurelia made their vow not to retreat, not to bow, not to break. If this was to be their end, they would make it legendary. The storm over Aurelia raged with wild fury as the first Zarn assault wave charged toward the colony. Rain hammered rooftops like falling bullets, lightning cracked across the sky, and thunder rolled like the drums of war. Governor Rhea Tran stood at the front gate, rifle clenched in shaking hands, soaked to the bone. Her voice rang through the comms. "Hold your ground. Reinforcements are coming. We only need to survive 6 hours." Security Chief Marcus Kane led the front defense. His arm was still in a sling, but he refused to step back. Beside him stood cooks, miners, bakers, teachers, ordinary people, armed with extraordinary courage. They crouched behind metal barricades, reinforced with scrap. Their breath came out in sharp clouds. Marcus's voice was low and steady. "Aim for their eyes. And remember, we are Terran. We fight as one." The Zarn warriors swarmed forward, black bodies gleaming in rain, orange eyes glowing with savage hunger. Their claws clicked on stone as they scrambled over craters, spitting acid and firing plasma bolts. Aurelia's turrets opened fire first, spraying glowing streams of energy across the battlefield. Alien bodies exploded in bursts of green blood. Still, the swarm pressed on without fear. Pilot Sophia Rangel, strapped into a broken exosuit patched together by Juno, charged into the chaos with fearless rage. She swung a heavy iron blade at the nearest Zarn, slicing its head clean off. "Come on," she roared, her voice echoing through rain and cannon fire. Around her, teenagers armed with homemade knives and energy pistols fought desperately, refusing to let their home fall. Engineer Juno Hayes stayed in the command bunker, her fingers flying over sparking consoles. "Power grid at 60%, she shouted. "Left turrets overheating." Rhea's voice crackled through the room. "Keep them running, Juno. We can't let them breach the walls." Juno wiped sweat from her face, heart pounding. She knew those machines were being held together by little more than hope and duct tape. Meanwhile, young Eli Ward sprinted toward a tall antenna tower in the heart of the colony, clutching the glowing Zarn device he'd discovered. Slipping and sliding in muddy water, he reached the control panel and shoved the alien jammer into place. Sparks flew. The device lit up with pulsing violet light. Eli prayed he was right. "Please work," he whispered. Suddenly, distant, Zarn gunners started missing their shots. Their aim twitched, their weapons misfiring. Eli grinned with wild relief. Yes, Governor Rhea watched from the western barricade as the Zarn fighters hesitated, confused by their scrambled signals. Whatever Eli did, it's working, she yelled. Push forward. Marcus led a fierce counterattack. Humans charged out, with war cries, blasting, stabbing, striking. For a beautiful, savage moment, the Zarn line buckled under the Terran assault. Victory felt possible, but hope came at a price. The alien jammer overloaded, exploding in a flash of purple energy. Eli was thrown backward, smacking his head against metal plates. He fell unconscious as the tower sparked violently. With the disruption gone, the Zarn regrouped and surged forward with renewed fury. Rhea saw them coming like a tidal wave of death. Fall back to the inner wall, Rhea commanded. Slowly, painfully, humans retreated through shattered streets, while covering each other with bursts of gunfire. Rain turned red with blood. Sophia struggled under the weight of her suit, pushing wounded soldiers toward safety. Move, she screamed, even as a plasma bolt struck her leg. Juno's voice shrieked across the speakers. They've reached the geothermal tunnel entrance. If the Zarn destroyed that core, Aurelia would explode beneath their feet. Raya's heart lurched. Marcus, she barked. Take a squad and hold that tunnel. Use everything. Marcus didn't hesitate. He limped toward the tunnel with 6 volunteers. Among them was Big Tom, the burly miner who had once carried the colony's children on his shoulders for fun. Now he loaded a massive mining drill like a weapon. Let's make them regret coming here, he said with a grim smile. Inside, the dark, steaming tunnel, the small team set explosive charges along the narrow passage. Marcus wiped blood from his forehead. When they break through, he growled, we blow this and bury them. The volunteers nodded, teeth clenched. Above them, the Zarn warriors clawed at sealed doors. Metal screeched, sparks rained down. The humans waited, hearts hammering. On the surface, Raya listened to every second tick by, eyes glued to the countdown clock on her wrist. 4 hours, 11 minutes, until reinforcements. Every minute felt like an eternity. For a brief, terrifying moment, she thought of surrender. Her people were exhausted, but then she saw 2 small children muddy, scared, holding each other beside a broken statue of Earth carved from stone. Raya felt fierce love fill her chest. Not for myself, she thought. For them. Suddenly, an unexpected sound crackled on the long-range comms. Static, then a voice. Spearhead to Aurelia. We read you. 20 minutes out bringing friends. Raya's breath caught. Repeat that, she shouted. The voice came back stronger. This is Captain Dex, of the Terran cruiser Spearhead. Reinforcements inbound. Hold the line. Raya's knees almost gave way from relief. She slammed her fist on the railing, shouting to her defenders, help is coming. Cheers rippled through the battered colony, giving the fighters a second wind of pure adrenaline. They lifted their rifles higher, fixed bayonets, and screamed defiance at the endless storm at the tunnel entrance. Marcus heard the news through his earpiece. He let out a raspy laugh. Hear that, boys? We're not dying today. Big Tom hefted his drill. Then let's give hell until backup arrives. Outside, Rhea raised her rifle and fired into the advancing Zarn ranks, eyes blazing with renewed hope. As thunder roared and the colonies shook under the weight of battle, one truth echoed through every heart in Aurelia. Humans were not built to surrender, and even if death stood inches away, they would face it screaming there. Spirit into the stars. Rainwater mixed with blood and mud as Outpost Aurelia shook under the thunder of war. The battered colony clung to life, every shattered wall and scorched turret telling a story of sacrifice. Lightning flashed, and in its white light, Governor Rhea Trent saw hundreds of Zarn warriors swarming toward the inner wall. Their claws scraped the stone. Their glowing orange eyes looked hungry. Raya's voice roared through the crackling speakers. Do not let them inside. Reinforcements are almost here. But inside, she wondered, will we last that long? In the main street, Sophia Rangel limped on bruised legs, clutching a blaster with trembling hands. Her bandaged ribs burned with each breath. Still, she fought, on firing into the alien swarm as they crawled over wreckage. Behind her, young Eli Ward woke from unconsciousness, rain falling on his face. He sat up slowly, dazed, hearing distant screams. His head throbbed, but when he saw his people still fighting, something fierce sparked inside him. He staggered toward the bunker, refusing to give up. Engineer Juno Hayes stood hunched over a console in the command room, fingers flying across controls. Sparks showered her arms, but she didn't stop. "Raya, shields are almost down," she warned. "If they hit the reactor door again, we're done." Raya's heart hammered. "Divert all remaining power to shields," she ordered. "We must hold for 10 more minutes." Juno bit her lip hard enough to draw blood as she rerouted the last of their energy. On the front line, Marcus Kane and Big Tom fought side by side. Marcus's sling had been torn off. There was no time for weakness now. He wielded a rifle in one arm and a machete in the other. Tom swung his massive drill, turning alien skulls into shards. A young mother, Sabine, knelt nearby with 2 pistols, screaming revenge for her fallen son. Every human there glowed with wild, desperate bravery. Rage and hope turned ordinary people into legends. The Zarn, furious at the resistance, unleashed their giant siege beasts, hulking creatures with spiked legs and molten cores glowing beneath armored skin. One slammed its claws into a turret, tearing it apart like paper. Rhea raised her rifle and shouted, "Focus! Fire on the big one!" Plasma bolts rained against the monster's hide. Marcus charged, jumping onto its back, stabbing again and again, screaming like a madman as acid splashed his arms. The beast shrieked and collapsed, crushing rubble beneath it. Cheers erupted, but quickly broke into gasps as 2 more appeared in the smoke. Back in the bunker, Eli burst through the door, panting hard. "I'm okay," he croaked to Juno. "What can I do?" Juno's eyes were wide, her face streaked with soot. "The booster's dead, and the shields are dying. Unless we restore power, we won't last until backup arrives." Eli stared at the ruined jammer, in his hands even broken. It glowed with alien energy. "What if I hook this into the core directly? It might give us one last burst." Juno hesitated. It could blow the entire colony. Eli looked toward the screaming battlefield. "If we do nothing, it ends anyway." Juno swallowed. "Let's try." Together they ran to the reactor chamber, a glowing red heart beneath the colony. Pipes rattled and lights flickered overhead. Eli clamped the alien device to the reactor coil. Juno flipped emergency switches. Blue sparks filled the room. "Come on," she whispered. "Come on." Suddenly, every light in the colony blazed blinding white. Turrets roared back to life. Shields surged with new strength, covering the walls in shimmering force fields. The defenders gasped. Raya heard the news in her earpiece. Power surge successful. Juno yelled. Raya almost wept. "You brilliant lunatics." With renewed defenses, humans launched one final push. Sabine led a team of civilians through burning alleys, throwing improvised explosives. Marcus and Tom rallied reinforcements around the reactor entrance, protecting Juno and Eli with their lives. Above, in the burning sky, a thunderous boom echoed a different kind of roar. Raya looked up and saw lights streaking through storm. Clouds, ships, sleek, silver, beautiful. The Terran fleet. "This is Captain Dax of Spearhead. Sorry we're late. Opening fire." Blue lasers rained down from orbit, slicing through Zarn carriers. Terran gunships dove, missiles shrieking into the enemy ranks. The Zarn screamed in shock as the sky turned against them. Aurelia's survivors burst into joyful cries that mixed with their battle roars. Reinforcements landed, armored troops, spilling out with heavy rifles and med dash packs. Raya sank to her knees, body finally buckling after days of resistance. A helmeted soldier lifted her gently. "Governor Trent," Raya looked at the young woman through tears. "We held," she whispered. The soldier nodded with reverence. "Because of you, ma'am. Because of all of you." Raya's gaze swept across her bruised, bleeding people, still standing tall, beside flaming wreckage, in those last seconds of battle. The humans of Aurelia didn't relax. They fought even harder, driven by relief and fury. Together with their reinforcements, they crushed the remaining Zarn invaders. When the smoke finally cleared and the storm passed, dawn painted the sky gold. Aurelia still stood broken, burned, but unbowed. Raya looked toward the rising sun, voice soft but fierce. "This colony is not a grave," she said. "It is a promise to Earth, to the Union, to every world watching. Humanity will never kneel." The first peaceful sunrise in days washed Aurelia in golden light. The rain had stopped. Smoke drifted gently over wrecked rooftops. Charred alien bodies lay scattered beside shattered walls, their glowing eyes now dark forever. The air still carried the scent of ash and plasma. But for the first time since the nightmare began, there was no sound of screaming. No thunder of claws on stone, only silence and breath. Governor Rhea Trent walked slowly through the broken streets, her legs heavy, her eyes red from exhaustion. Everywhere she looked, she saw the cost of survival. Buildings were crumpled like old paper. Defense towers leaned at dangerous angles. Blood stained the ground where heroes had fallen. Yet amid the ruins stood people bruised, bandaged, but alive. Mothers hugged children. Old men raised fists at the new dawn. Survivors whispered prayers to the sky. Terran soldiers from the spearhead moved swiftly to help. Medics treated the wounded, laying them gently on stretchers. Engineers lifted debris and restored basic power. Captain Dax himself, a tall, sharpened man with scars down his jaw, approached Raya, helmet under his arm. "Governor," he said with deep respect, "your people saved this colony on their own." Raya's voice trembled as she replied, "We just refused to die." Dax smiled faintly. Humanity's favorite strategy. Down in what was left of the main square, Marcus Kane sat on a fallen statue, his arm freshly bandaged. He watched as Juno Hayes argued with medical officers, refusing to rest. "I need to repair the water purifier," she snapped. "I'll sleep when Aurelia breathes again." Eli, wrapped in a blanket, sipped hot soup handed to him by a kind soldier. His eyes were distant, haunted by everything he had seen. When he spotted Sophia hobbling toward him with a cane made of scrap metal, he managed a small smile. She winked. "Told you we'd make it." Throughout the colony, small acts of kindness kept hope burning. A medic placing a dry jacket over a shivering child, a soldier sharing a piece of chocolate with a crying miner, a young girl singing softly as she helped sweep rubble from her porch. Humans had suffered, but their spirits glowed even brighter than surviving structures. Later that day, inside a temporary command tent, a council gathered. Captain Dax, several Union envoys who had just arrived after the danger was over, and Rhea faced each other over a holographic map. The Union delegates were pale and ashamed. One spoke with a cracked voice. "We abandoned you. We assumed Aurelia would fall. We carry deep regret." Raya did not shout, but her words cut like steel. Regret does not rebuild homes. Regret does not raise the dead. She leaned forward. "From now on, do not underestimate humanity again, or we will fight alone." The room fell silent. Even Captain Dax looked proud. New decisions were made. Quickly, the Union promised defense, fleets, supplies, and resources. But Rhea insisted, "Aurelia will be rebuilt our way, with our hands." Workers began planning new walls, stronger than before. Engineers from Earth knelt beside Aurelia's own people, drawing blueprints in the dust. Children helped carry tools. Sculptors carved fresh stones engraving the names of every fallen hero for a memorial to stand at the heart of the colony. As dusk arrived, a ceremony was held at the ruins of the square. Survivors and soldiers stood with flickering lanterns in hand. Juno read aloud the names of the dead, her voice trembling but clear. Each name rang through the air like a bell, and after each, the crowd answered with the single word, present. Rhea wiped tears from her eyes, but did not look away. These were not just losses, they were pillars of what the colony now was. After the last name, Captain Dax stepped forward and saluted. History will speak of Aurelia, a place where humanity stood alone against the dark, and did not fall. The crowd lifted their lanterns high. Above them, the stars finally shone without clouds or warships blocking their light. That night, Rhea returned to her lonely watchtower. She looked up, wondering about the future. Perhaps the Zarn would return. Perhaps an even greater storm would come. But fear did not own her heart. Behind her, she heard footsteps. Turning, she saw Eli, Sophia, Marcus, Juno, and a few children standing together. None of them spoke, but their presence said everything. You are not alone. Rhea exhaled slowly. Then we rebuild, she said softly, brick by brick, heart by heart. They stared at the endless sky, their colony a scarred beacon on a distant world. Somewhere out there were other enemies, other threats. But humanity had proven something powerful, that, even on a forgotten frontier, far from Earth, their spirit could light the darkness. Weeks passed since the last Zarn warrior fell, but Aurelia still wore its scars like fresh wounds. Rebuilding had begun, but every hammer strike echoed with memories of screams. The colonists worked from sunrise to midnight, lifting metal beams, rebuilding shelter domes, and patching up power grids. Even in exhaustion, they refused to slow down. For them, working meant living, and living honored the fallen. Governor Rhea Trent led by example. Her hands were blistered and bruised from hauling crates and shoveling rubble. She spoke little these days, her mind often drifting to faces she would never see again. Yet no matter how tired she felt, she showed up at each rebuild site, checking progress, praising volunteers, and sharing small smiles that brought courage to tired souls. Sophia Rettengel, still limping from her leg wound, organized a group of young pilots. Together, they gathered scraps of wrecked ships and began constructing a new air squadron. Their flying machines looked patchwork made from broken Zarn plating, mixed with Terran steel, but they were fast, sharp, and fierce. We'll make sure no one ever catches us off guard again, Sophia told her team, her voice a growl of promise. Meanwhile, Juno Hayes set up a small technology lab inside a half-rebuilt dome. She and Eli Ward studied the remains of Zarn equipment. They attacked us once, Juno said, wiping grease from her cheek, but next time we'll be ready first. Eli's eyes were serious beyond his years. He used to dream of seeing Earth again. Now he dreamed of protecting Aurelia forever. Together, they tinkered with alien tech, inventing sensors, shields, and strange weapons no human had ever seen before. Despite hard work, unease lingered. Patrols reported strange shadows moving in the valley at night. Sometimes residents heard whispers on the wind, chilling and alien. Marcus Kane took these rumors seriously. He sent teams to search the hills, rifles loaded. One night, he returned, silent, more tense than usual. Zarn scouts, he told Rhea quietly, watching from the dark, testing our strength. Rhea did not panic. Instead, she gathered her people in the square under the starlight. Lanterns hung from ropes between broken buildings, giving the moment an almost sacred glow. Her voice, though soft, carried to every corner. We did not survive to live in fear. We rebuild not just walls, but spirit. If the Zarn return, they will not meet the exhausted colony they once attacked. They will meet Aurelia, reborn. The crowd cheered. Energy sparked in their hearts again, but trouble brewed deep beyond the planet. A Union cruiser arrived unexpectedly. Ambassador Likaratal, cold alien from the crystalline Velaran species, stepped onto Aurelian soil. His golden robes glittered like coins. "We come with orders," he announced, voice echoing metallic. "The Union has decided Aurelia must be evacuated. It is a risk to keep a colony here. You will be relocated within the month." A stunned silence swept through the crowd. Raya's jaw clenched. Sophia spat on the ground. Children hid behind parents, clutching their makeshift toys. Moving meant abandoning everything they had fought for. Marcus stepped forward, fists tight. "We bled for this land. We buried our dead here. You think we'll walk away now?" Lika raised an elegant eyebrow. "Your bravery is noted. Still, the order stands." Raya took a slow breath. Her voice, when it came, was quiet, but deadly sharp. "You watched us fight, and did nothing. We saved ourselves. This is our home, not yours to take. We will not leave." Around her, Aurelians stood taller. Ambassador Lekker's crystal eyes narrowed. "Refusal may be seen as rebellion. We call it survival," Raya replied. That night, Raya met privately with Captain Dax inside a quiet room. Rain began to fall again over the colony, soft, this time like whispered drums. Dax looked conflicted. "The Union fears this frontier will attract more war. They think pulling back prevents chaos. But you and I both know, humanity has never retreated from the unknown." Raya studied him carefully. "Will you stand with us?" she asked. Dax stayed silent for a long moment, then bowed his head. "Aurelia isn't just a colony. It's a symbol. I will defend that symbol, even if it costs me my command." Outside, unaware of secret talks, people kept rebuilding, hammering, welding, planting seeds in the soil cleaned of ash. Life continued in stubborn defiance. Babies were born. Songs were sung. Hope, once fragile and flickering, now burned bright like a furnace. But far beyond Aurelia's sky, unseen by tired human eyes, the Zarnhive world stirred. Giant war clusters crawled across its molten surface. Queens hissed and swore vengeance. This time, they would not come with small armies. They would come with a swarm to blot out the stars. Back on Aurelia, Raya watched a small green sprout push up from the earth, first new plant since the siege. She knelt, touching it gently. A single tear slid down her cheek, not of sadness, but fierce pride. "We're ready," she whispered to the skies. "Let them come. Aurelia stands." A cold wind blew over Aurelia's half-rebuilt walls as night fell once more. The sky glittered with countless stars, bright and peaceful, but Governor Rhea Trent felt a chill deep in her spine. Something was coming. She stood on the watchtower. Again, the spot that had become her second home. Her hair whipped against her face in the wind. Down below, lights glowed inside newly repaired homes where people laughed softly, trying to live normal lives again. Yet Raya's heart refused peace. She had learned one brutal truth. Peace, for humans, was always temporary. Inside the tech dome, Juno Hayes and Eli Ward hunched over a new console, surrounded by blinking lights and wires that pulsed like veins. They were finishing a device made from human ingenuity mixed with stolen Zarn technology. Eli adjusted the last circuit. "This sensor should detect any Zarn fleet within 20 light-years," he said, voice low but hopeful. Juno wiped sweat from her brow. "Let's activate it." They powered it up. A strange humming filled the room. For a moment, nothing. Then suddenly, the screen flooded red. Countless dots. Incoming. Huge. Fast. Juno's face drained of color. "Oh no." Eli sprinted toward the door, heart hammering. He burst into the street and yelled, "Toward the tower, Governor. You need to see this." Raya was already climbing down, instincts sharp as blades. Inside the dome, she stared at the red display, pulse thudding in her ears. "Is this real?" she whispered. Juno nodded grimly. multiple fleets. Bigger than before. They'll be here in 10 days. Raya closed her eyes briefly. So soon. The Zarn had not forgotten. They were coming back to crush what remained. Raya called an emergency council that very hour. Marcus Kane, Sophia, Captain Dax, Juno, Eli, and several colony leaders gathered inside a rough wooden meeting hall. Rain hammered on the roof as thunder rumbled far away. Raya's voice was calm but fierce as she spoke. The Zarn are returning with everything they have. If we stay alone, we will be wiped from existence. Captain Dax leaned forward. The Union won't send a full fleet. Not to a frontier outpost. His words tasted like betrayal. Sophia slammed her fist on the table. Then we send our own call. Not for pity, but for allies. Marcus nodded. We fought alone before. This time we gather every soul who still believes in humanity. Raya looked at each face around the table. Agreed. We send a broadcast to every Terran colony, every smuggler, every rebel ship, anyone who remembers what it means to fight for something true. They set to work immediately. Meanwhile, Ambassador Leaker watched their efforts with icy eyes. He disapproved. This will destabilize the Union, he warned Raya. You may invite chaos. Raya stood tall. Chaos built us. Chaos made us. Chaos gave us strength. The ambassador curled his crystal lips in disapproval. You are reckless. Raya smiled. I am human. Across Aurelia, the message was sent a fiery speech, written by Juno, and recorded by Raya, broadcast through deep space frequencies. Her voice echoed across solar systems. We call to all who dare to fight. Aurelia stands again against the darkness. Come not as saviors, but as brothers and sisters. Stand with us. Together we become the flame they cannot extinguish. Days passed. At first silence. Anxiety bit into every heart. Were they truly alone? Farmers sharpened tools. Children practiced drills with dummy rifles. Sophia's pilots tested their patchwork ships above the colony. Even the elderly made bullets or cooked food for fighters. This time, everyone would be ready. They had built bunkers, repaired shields, and rigged deadly traps across the valley. Aurelia had become a fortress. Then, on the fourth night, under a violet sky, a crackle came through the comms. This is Captain Harper of the Iron Hope. We are coming. Raya's breath caught. Minutes later, this is the Black Lion Exmor crew. We stand with Aurelia. Then another research vessel, Starwind, entering Aurelia sector with medical staff. One by one, ships answered. Not clean Union cruisers, but rough freighters, outlaw ships, mining barges, rebel warcraft, entire fleets of misfits, fighters, dreamers, all roaring the same words. Humanity stands. By dawn, dozens of allied ships cut through Aurelia's sky, landing across open fields. Soldiers in mismatched armor stepped out, shaking hands with Aurelians. Mechanics unloaded crates of weapons. Doctors hugged wounded children. Old scavenger captains laughed and saluted Raya. Heard you needed a miracle, one toothless smuggler said. Raya clasped his hands. No, just believers. Marcus walked the new defense line, pride swelling in his chest. Sophia's new squadron took flight, engines roaring like thunder dragons. Juno adjusted defense grids, linking all incoming ships into one network. Eli ran everywhere, helping newcomers and shouting directions. Something beautiful stirred in the air. This was no longer just a colony, it was a symbol so bright that people had crossed stars to protect it. As the sun set on the 9th day, Raya stood once more upon her watchtower, but this time she did not stand alone. Around her stood captains, children, rebels, farmers, pilots, and soldiers from across human space, all facing the horizon where the Zarn would soon arrive. Behind them stretched a wall, not of stone, but of unity. Far out in space, great black shapes appeared, darkening the stars. The Zarn were here at last. Raya raised her rifle to the blazing sky. Her voice thundered through speakers, deep and fearless. "We are Aurelia. We do not kneel, we do not run, and tonight we fight." A thousand human voices answered as one, lifting the very air with their war cry. The skies above Aurelia swirled with black clouds and blistering fire as the Zarn invasion fleet descended like wrath from another world. Their warships blotted out constellations. Their engines howled like beasts. Claws of molten metal tore through the atmosphere, promising nothing but extinction. Yet below, an army of humans stood unshaken, eyes fierce, backs straight, weapons ready. On the rebuilt watchtower, Governor Rhea Trent watched the enemy arrive, wind whipping her coat. "This is it," she whispered. "Our final stand." From valleys and rooftops, Terran defenders aimed rifles, cannons, and homemade rockets. Beside Aurelius, people stood: miners from Rigel Colony, pilots from the Iron Hope, smugglers from Forgotten Moons, doctors turned soldiers, children turned warriors. Captain Dax stood at Raya's side, helmet on, sword in hand. "A pleasure to fight beside you," he said. Raya answered with a proud smile. "Today, the universe sees what humans truly are." The Zarn struck like a storm of razors. Their sleek black gunships fired plasma torrents that shattered rock and metal. Acid rains burned holes into barricades. Huge biomechs stomped across the valley, glowing with inner fire. Aurelia returned fire. Turrets blazed. Fighter jets painted the sky with missiles. Makeshift cannons built from mining drills shot molten iron. Rebel ships dive-bombed enemy positions in gutsy suicide runs. Each explosion lit the night like a second sun. Marcus Kane led ground squads through smoke-choked alleys, rallying anyone still breathing. "Every inch we hold buys another." "Heartbeats," he shouted. Sophia, piloting the lead fighter patched with Zarn armor, tore through the air and destroyed 3 enemy ships before crash-landing in a spray of sparks. Crawling out and fighting with a blaster clutched in bleeding hands. Inside the control dome, Juno Hayes worked like fury, fingers blazing over panels, shields at half. She reported as sparks rained from the ceiling. Eli, bruised and covered in soot, kept calibrating their homemade array. "If we amplify this pulse, we might disrupt their swarm." Raya's voice crackled over comms. "Do it. Buy us an edge." Outside, lives were spent to protect their station. The battle raged for hours, brutal and relentless. At times it looked hopeless. Zarn warriors broke through the western wall. Screams split the air. But Aurelius' children threw firebombs. Doctors grabbed weapons. Old men stabbed with sharpened pipes. Every street became its own legend. Rhea refused to back down. Shot in the shoulder, she fought on, rallying terrified defenders. Not one step back, she roared. Just when it seemed the colony would finally fall, Eli's device roared to life. A pulse of bright blue energy shot into the sky. Suddenly, Zarn communications crackled and died. Their formations broke, their monsters roaring in confusion. Rhea seized the chance. "All units charge." Across walls and fields, humans surged forward with wild defiance. Sophia, barely conscious, led a squad across the ruined reactor trench, while Marcus and Big Tom charged a Zarn command beast with dynamite strapped to their chests. The explosion blew a hole in the heart of the Zarn control ship hovering overhead. Flames rained down like broken stars as dawn's first light crept over the horizon. The surviving Zarn, leaderless and damaged, began retreating. Their great warships turned away, rising back toward the void that once promised human death. Across Aurelia, battered fighters collapsed in disbelief. They had done the impossible. Again, Rhea stood on a crumbling wall, blood on her face, breathing hard as she watched black shapes lift into space. Captain Dax removed his helmet, eyes shining. We won." Rhea didn't speak for a long time. Then she lifted her rifle with trembling strength and screamed a victory cry so powerful it echoed across the world. Thousands of voices joined her, thundering with joy and grief and pride. Later, amidst the rubble, survivors gathered. Many cried as they hugged, forming a giant circle of life around the cracked memorial stone at the colony's center. Juno wrapped an arm around Eli, eyes full of quiet wonder. "We saved more than our home," she whispered. "We saved our spirit." Ships from across human worlds stayed in orbit, promising forever friendship. The Union, shaken by Aurelia's unstoppable courage, vowed never again to abandon human colonies. Raya spoke at a final ceremony, standing beside a banner stitched from scraps of every world represented. Her voice was hoarse but powerful. "We fought with stones, with fire, with broken machines, but, above all, we fought with heart. Our unity makes us mighty. Our stubbornness makes us dangerous. Let this place forever remind the galaxy that humanity does not yield. Here, at the edge of everything, we chose not just to survive, but to rise." As she finished her speech, sunlight broke fully over the horizon, turning twisted metal into gold. Children released paper lanterns into the sky. They floated up like tiny souls, glowing brighter the higher they climbed. Outpost Aurelia stood torn and battered, but in every brick there was hope. In every survivor's chest, a blaze that would never dim. Far above, in the black of space, survivors whispered a single truth back and forth, a warning and a promise. Humanity doesn't just endure, humanity conquers.